Welcome everybody to tonight's Loveshack Live, a live edition of Ion Market. It is Wednesday evening. It is almost 9:30. We're a little early today. There hasn't been a stream in the past couple of weeks. Unfortunately, I did get a computer upgrade, which was awesome. So there's been a bit of a lag on the market watch going on. But we've got a really comprehensive list. I think I have like 25 tabs open. We're going to go through the market, we're going to take a look at everything that's here, and this will go up as a VOD after, so anybody that maybe can't watch live and wants to get a sense of what's going on with the market, which has been wild, you will be able to do so. With that being said, though, let's jump into today's Ion Market and see what is in store for us. Alrighty, so like I said, a lot of tabs open, a lot has happened. There was the announcement of Master Duel, we got the announcement of OTS 17 with Ultimate Rare Infinite Impermanence and BLS Soldier of Chaos. We've gotten the announcement of other upcoming product, the rest of Burst of Destiny, so on and so forth. And even a little bit on the next set that will follow Ancient Guardians. I'm not 100% sure on the name. I'm completely blanking on it right now. But we did get an article up on it, getting ready for the launch of YuGiOhMeta.com on Monday the 26th. I've hyped it a few times. I'll continue to do so. It's 100% free. Fully comprehensive guide of the meta, deck profiles, analysis, columns, so on and so forth. We've got a judge on board. You can send your questions to the judge directly, rulings questions, and they'll be answered in a weekly column. It's going to have a little something for everybody, and I really hope you guys will give it a chance and check it out. But I know a lot of people that are here right now may be here more so for the market. So with that being said, let's jump right into the actual breakdown of the market and see what we're looking at this week. Starting off with Emergency Teleport, and the reason I start off with this is because while I was unable to make comprehensive market videos, there was an announcement of a new archetype. I believe it's the Punk archetype. It's abbreviated PUNK, and the archetype does rely almost exclusively on level 3 or lower psychic monsters. And now, as I think about the fact that there may be more psychic support coming out, and there could be an incentive for Konami to move Emergency Teleport back on the list to 2 or 3, you could very easily see the price go up. Historically, whenever E-Tele is moved off the list or seen an increase in popularity, the copies of the card have risen significantly. Right now, everything except the ulti is mostly affordable, but, you know, you're getting into tricky territory with things like the Secret Rare from Legendary Collection 5Ds. That's around, you know, 10 to 11 bucks. No, maybe not actually. Near mint first ed's closer to 17. But here's the thing with the Ghost from the Past one. Ghost from the Past was widely ripped open, and so as a result, almost all of the singles tanked. This is a $2.20 card, and there is a pretty significant amount of listings. I would recommend purchasing this simply if you intend to play the deck or play something with Psychic in the future and don't currently have a play set. Because if it does move, it will spike in price, and then you'll be clamoring to get those, and there's no point in putting yourself in that position when you can be prepared and have them now. So my recommendation would be have a set of Emergency Teleports, whatever rarity you prefer, so that you don't find yourself chasing that down after when the sets actually drop. Next up is, we're going to be all over the place today, just for the record. There's not a huge rhyme or reason to this. The cards featured in the thumbnail are some of the biggest changes of this period, but there's a whole lot of stuff to get to, and we're going to just try to hammer it out as best we can in the 20 to 30 minutes that we'll be doing the show for. Elemental Hero Liquid Soldier is up, but more importantly than that, it is very limited in quantities with only 30 listings total. The recent sales have it around $55, and that's right about what we're looking at here with this cheapest sale here. Now, I understand we don't know whether or not Liquid Soldier is going to get a reprint anytime soon. We were expecting that there would be a Legendary Duelist Season 3, but as of now, it hasn't been announced. It looks like the rest of the year is pretty booked up with Maximum Gold, with the Megatins, with Brothers of Legend, with the Hidden Arsenal Season 3, or Season 1 rather, sorry. So there's a lot of stuff coming out. I don't see where they'd slot it in. So we've got two possibilities here. Either Liquid Soldier gets dropped into another set as a reprint, which we have not yet seen happen in terms of seeing cards from the Legendary Duelist set get reprints outside of the Legendary Duelist set, but they could set a new trend. That's certainly something that could be done, and certainly something that would be very nice if they did, because this is a really good card. It's one or two of in the deck at most, but it's also very pricey and desperately in need of a reprint, as is most of the stuff from Legendary Duelist Magical Hero, but that is kind of beating a dead horse at this point. Okay, moving on. Vision Hero Ferris, I was very surprised by this one. It did get bought out. There's 11 copies left, a decent number of sales on it just in the past few days. I don't know what caused it, but in the past 3 days there's been over 10 sales, and the price is solidly now up to $30 for the lowest listing, and quickly kind of jumping from there closer to $35 after some of the listings disappear. So yeah, I mean, another card desperately in need of a reprint. I'm holding out hope this could show up in Battles of Legend Armageddon or Maximum Gold El Dorado. It would definitely be a welcome reprint. It's a really good card for the Hero deck, and pretty much any variant of Hero will play this, so I would say that, you know, we talked about this on the channel before, back when it was like $17, and I talked about it being a decent pickup, but you had the risk of a reprint, and that was when we were all under the expectation that they were going to continue the Legendary Duelist theme. No idea what's going to happen there. Obviously, we will wait and see, but Ferris is up a lot, and there are very few quantities, so perhaps if you've got some extra and you want to try to make a sale, now could be a good time to list them, but that's really your call. Speaking of cards going up in value and low in quantity, Infernoble Arms Durandol from Rise of the Duelist did take a large splash off the market in the past couple of days with tons of sales over the $10 mark. I know that Infernoble in general has started to see a little bit of a resurgence, and in general this is a solid card that can search your level 4, level 5 or lower warrior fire monsters. And it's generally got, applications in more than one deck, especially with things like Isolde being such a solid enabler. I can't say I'm shocked by this. It is Rise of the Duelist, so that does seem like one of the things that is just kind of commonplace around here, that stuff from the last year of sets continues to rise. But the Megatins are coming in September, and this is a very, very likely candidate to be in there, as is most of the Infernoble stuff. So just something to keep in mind. I know there's events coming up soon, and people may be playing in them, so you may have to sort of balance whether or not that's actually going to, whether that's actually going to be a necessity, or if you want to wait and hope to get a better deal on it. Interestingly enough, Virtual World Kyuubi is another one I've got on the slate here. I've talked about this card before and how good I think it is, being a level 9 synchro that basically turns the field into a macrocosmos. It's solid in Virtual Worlds, but I do think it has applications outside of that, and is a card that you may see in the future having a lot more representation than it does now. That being said, it also seems like a prime candidate for the Megatins to get maybe downgraded to an Ultra or a Super. So you're really kind of weighing that, of course, as you are with anything we talk about in the Megatins. It's a really cool card. It's $6. I don't think, if the card in the future ends up being played, that $6 price point's not going to be like you're spending an insane amount of money regardless. So I would say it could be something worth having a copy of regardless, but you could wait. If you're not someone who cares about rarity. Obviously, I think the original rarity or highest rarity will be Secret First Ed over time. So if you want it and you anticipate wanting it, you're not spending a ton of money to grab it, and it's definitely a solid pickup. Book of Lunar Eclipse, speaking of solid pickups, has just continued to go down. It had a lot of initial hype, but there was mostly just people talking about what it could be, not so much what it is. It's around $8. I do think it's a card that we may look to in the future and say, man, this is a solid card, like decks are going to play this. The discard does kind of suck, but the fact that you have to target 2 monsters is what makes it not so viable. I think if this card said you could target up to 2, it would be probably double the price it is now, because it would be a really, really useful card in so many decks, at least to stop link plays, combo plays, so on and so forth. But book cards in general typically have done well historically in Yu-Gi-Oh! People like to go after them. Cards like Book of Eclipse that weren't very good for a long time saw a very large meta resurgence later down the line. So, looking at the price point on this, I don't know how much lower it's really going to go. It's not going to be a candidate for the Megatins with, at least not anytime soon. We got at least a year and a half almost before there's any real updates on that. So you've got a lot of time, and there's a good chance that this could see a rise in price if someone finds a way to make it useful and it catches on. Decent amount of listings, though. You might be able to snipe some best offers on eBay or otherwise to see that. Speaking of things that begin with E, I gotta stay hydrated doing this live. I can't cut and edit things. Eva is very low in quantities with 29, but some people have a ton. I think Gamer's Choice has like 60 copies. They're very quickly, though, up towards $6. And I'll tell you, Drytron is an insanely good deck. This card is really, really solid in there. I know the builds are playing more than one now. I think you could see some additional list attention in the future, maybe Beatrice, but I also don't know that it's necessary. I do think Drytron is a strong deck, but you can adequately play against it if you side properly. I know a lot of people get very butthurt having to play against it and think it's unchecked, but I don't think it's like an undisputed, best card in the meta or anything like that. So I think, maybe calm down a little on that. But Eva, at this point, unless you're finding it in bulk or something, like I managed to find some in bulk back when this card first started to get hyped, you're probably going to be paying a decent amount for it. And, realistically speaking, I can't see a reprint for it unless it ends up being in the Agent Structure deck that we don't know whether or not we're actually getting. It's, it's really kind of up in the air for that one. Downward Magician surprised me with 2 copies left. 6969. Gotta love the meme there, but really $25 for the near mint. There's only 1 available. Tons of them have disappeared over the past few days. Now, this is the Mega Pack one, so I will point out, TCG Player always seems to do this. I will point out that the other ones have a few more copies, but not anything substantial. Downward Magician from Legacy of the Valiant's about $42 and very low in quantities with 8 copies. I know this is a card that is played to go into Zeus and give it extra materials. It's really interesting to see the insane spike in price that this card has seen. Even the gold rare is, there is a total of 16 listings across all 3 rarities for this card. So if you don't, if you don't have one, you're not going to be securing one cheap. I think this card is a solid reprint candidate considering it's been about 6 to 7 years. But good card. It's got the waifu thing going for it that I know is appealing to a lot of players, in addition to being an actually used meta card, and that is what's causing the price spike for sure. Kagamusha Knight. Not sure if this is tied to like the resurgence of Infernoble and just it being a decent card in there because it's a warrior. I don't know what the reasoning is. I know it's been a card people go after for a bit, but it's around $8, and again, relatively low in quantities. It was in a premium collection tin 9 years ago, so it's not accessible on the market all that much. But I'm doing a check. I think it was also in something else. Yeah, it was reprinted in the Legendary Hero decks, which is, sorry guys, TCG Player is automatically doing this whenever I reset. It was reprinted in the Legendary Hero decks, but that's also low in quantities. So both printings are, appear to be on the rise. I don't know how many sales there's been of this one, but yeah, I mean, just looking at the past couple of days, there's been a large number of sales just from up to the 20th, so might be worth keeping an eye on. Next up, Soul Servant. This has been featured on the channel before. I'm just featuring it again because it's, again, very low in quantities and $30+. This is Legendary Duelist Magical Hero. Again, we don't know whether or not there's going to be a reprint for this set. This is a Dark Magician support card, and it also happens to be a really, really good Dark Magician support card, which there aren't many of. I don't see it price dropping significantly again, but it's also not, it doesn't have the most sales. But it's got a decent handful of them, too. I don't know if there's just been a recent resurgence in the card or if someone had some build that utilized it or what. But it's a Dark Magician card. It's actually good, and I think people will continue to chase that down. Now, Rescue Cat. Let's talk about Rescue Cat. Rescue Cat is actually really, really good in Tri-Brigade. We've talked about that before. The common version from Flaming Eternity, which, as you know, is, 15 years old. The common near mint, I don't even know if there are any. Cheapest near mint common seems to be $20. That's, not surprising because of how old it is and how few copies of this exist. The ultra rare from Duelist Saga is $33 to $35, and I haven't even looked at the Turbo Pack versions. Every time it's going to do this to me? Okay. Turbo Pack versions, I mean, yeah, you're paying astronomical amounts on these. Near mint, $90. So $300, give or take, for a playset. I wouldn't even, unless you really want them, I would say maybe you're better off shopping around elsewhere. But Rescue Cat in Tri-Brigade is an insanely good card, but it's also something that people use in past formats, so it's got double things going for it. It's still really good, even with the errata that it received, and it's kind of in need of a reprint. I don't know when so my guess is that, well, first of all, TCG Player needs to fix that. The last time this card was actually reprinted was in Duelist Saga, and that set came out in 2017. So 4 years, I think we could probably all benefit from a reprint of it at this juncture. you're going to be paying, you're not going to find this in bulk anymore, I don't think. So you're going to be paying a pretty good price for this no matter what. This was like a $6 card for a while. Nowhere near there anymore. And you've got your, like, random versions, too, but they're all from, like, obscure sets, like Turbo Pack 1, Dark Revelation, Champion Pack 5. So even though they're low rarity, they're not going to be, like, low cost. Judgment Dragon, Ultimate Rare. This was one I just had to throw up quick as I happened to notice it in passing. This card got a recent, like, I disappeared from the market. And again, I don't think there's like a large quantity of these just going up for sale. Most people that have them probably want to keep them, but $600 at the cheapest for the Ultimate Rare. I know the secret rare copy of this card is also really, really high. And it's my preferred rarity, but I know people feel differently. Let's just take a quick peek at that. I don't even know when the Light Play First Edition sells for like $160. I'm guessing that Near Mint First Edition is probably going to be a lot more. Around, let's see, $279, so about $300. It's like half the price of the Ulti, which is kind of shocking to me because it's such a historical card from the format when Light of Destruction was out. First Edition LOD is impossibly hard to find at this point. I really think this should be more in terms of being at competition with the Ulti, but I guess, you know, what am I? I don't make the rules. I don't dabble in the highest end market there, of course, because I don't have that kind of capital. But Judgment Dragon Ulti, I will look at Near Mint. Like, the last time a Near Mint one sold, it was $400. So $400 versus $300 is okay. I don't necessarily think this $600 price point is the actual price this card will be at. I do imagine it will be a little bit lower, but we've seen crazier things happen. I just think this is, for this to be double the secret doesn't feel right to me, especially given the significance of the secret and what we've seen with Dark Arm Dragon, where it sort of keeps pace with the Ulti, but the Ulti is a bit higher. Book of Moon Ultimate Rare is up to $140, almost $150 with very few quantities, but unlike the last couple of attempted buyouts, this has stuck with multiple sales of over $140. I think the opportunity to grab this card cheap has passed. I think people talked about it for a while, but the truth is, Book of Moon is actually a really, really good card that I think deserves more meta attention than it's getting. I know people have talked about it. I know it has the historical formats going for it, but it is still a really, really good counter for a lot of decks, and I play it in Magistus personally. It's going to be a card that's always going to be in conversation for potential viability, and I'm not surprised by this, because Book of Moon is quite literally one of the most iconic spell cards in the game, and it has historical value as well with Champion Pack 1 Super, which, let's be honest, I think will always remain the dominant, given the amount of time it's been out, the iconic nature of it, but still, I mean, it's still a really solid increase if you pick these up cheap, and they were $60-$70 for a while. They were $100 as recently as 2 months ago, so it's definitely not a bad pickup, and if you had gotten it at that price, obviously. Fallen of Alba is still really high and still selling. Megatins are obviously on the horizon, but this card continues to get support. We know there's a lot more archetypes coming out for him. $30 most recent sale, but it looks like he's closer to about $23, $24. I do want these. I don't have them anymore. I sold mine a while back when they initially spiked. I didn't think it would keep going to this level. Apparently I was wrong, but $22.99 is going to be the cheapest you're going to grab that at right now. Let's just assume this is definitely a candidate for the Megatins, whether it's an Ultra or a Prismatic Secret Rare. There's so many archetypes coming out and that have come out that rely around this card in some way, and I think Konami's going to want it to be accessible. I think the real money that they can make from the Megatins doesn't lie in Fallen of Albaz, it lies in a lot of other cards, so having access to this would mean players might be more apt to go after some of those other archetypes like Despia or different things that are coming out in the future, and as a result, I think it's better for the community if this card is more accessible than it currently is. Even though it's not amazing, it just gets better with time, especially now that there's almost one fusion for every attribute it has. Here's one to talk about. Number F0 Utopic Draco Future. I saw this dip a little bit to the point where people were grabbing them around like 18, 17, but it didn't last. They have sold a lot today. I actually finally got my hands on one today, and I'm happy about that. There's so many listings of this with what's been ripped open, so it's not like I would say you have to worry about finding them per se, but it's going to be a card that in the future will have more value than it does now. It's in King's Court, so it's not like you have to worry about a Megatin reprint or anything, and realistically speaking, it's a really, really solid boss monster that you should probably probably have access to. I don't see it dipping much more than it has. That's not to say it won't go down $5 or something and you'll be able to snag it, in which case, all power to you. But I definitely am happy to have mine, and even if you just want to secure the one copy, it's a really, really good card. And with the Utopia support continuing to come out, different decks finding ways to utilize this, I would recommend grabbing one. Here we go. I've talked about this card ad nauseum. Joker's Knight is a ridiculous card, in my opinion, being that it not only is a great support for the Arcana decks, but being a standalone extender that allows you to mill something from the deck and recurs itself, thereby, you know, A, reducing the likelihood of your dead draws, and B, providing a resource you can get back each turn. This is a card that I just can see being akin to Brilliant Fusion at some point, where it's played as an engine. People are finding ways to use it. I don't know exactly what or how or anything yet, but you can read it and you can see that the community is thinking similarly, because this card is selling like hotcakes. Just today, there's been over 10 sales, and I can't see any further sales data history. I don't know if it only goes back so far. They're going to be adding more, but this card is selling, and it's absolutely moving, and you can just tell by the fact that there's only 58 listings versus a lot of the other ultras which have higher quantities. Get a Joker's Knight. Get a playset of Joker's Knight if you have any interest in playing it, because I do think it will rise. Lightning Storm is $40. Not shocking, but it's pretty much dipped a little bit below where I thought it would stay. Now that we know that, you know, I don't have any confirmation on this, but I would bet money that the Lightning Storm, the structure deck is going to have Lightning Storm. I think it will stay in the Cyber Dragon structure deck. I think by the time that deck comes out, we will have already had the Megatins. We will have had, you know, this set here. Lightning Storm at that point can be an additional selling point for that deck along with Impermanence, and I bet you those decks will sell extremely well if those two cards end up in it. Again, $40 isn't bad for a card that's really good to have. I'd like to see it a little bit cheaper, and I think that if it does get the extravagance treatment and ends up in the Megatins, it will go down more than it already has. Joker's Straight is an Ultra that is around $10. This is another really good card. Basically grabs you resources from your deck. It locks you out of special summoning from the extra deck except for light warrior monsters, but it's a self-recurring resource that sets you up for tribute summoning your Arcana Triumph Joker or an Egyptian God, or going into Arcana Extra Joker or something from the extra deck. There's a lot of things this card can do, and the fact that it recurs itself at the end phase means it's basically a free resource. I do think, given the, first of all, awesome artwork on it, and the fact that, again, people have been buying it, it is selling a lot. I think people are going after the Arcana stuff for legacy reasons, but I'm actually really excited to work on putting a deck together for this. I have maybe 75% of the cards I need to do so, and once that's complete, I will post that to the channel, obviously. But there is a lot to like here, and I do think this card could go up more if there was to be any viability in the deck. I'd like to see it drop a bit, though. So, Slifer the Sky Dragon, speculated to be a misprint or a US-only thing, with some UK regions getting some here and there. In other words, House of Champs has reported that there's been no evidence of any foreign copies of this card in any other language other than English, with, like I said, the UK getting some sporadically. I don't know whether or not that's true, or if they're just that shorted over there, or what happened, but it would really be kind of insane if that was ever confirmed, because that would mean that these cards' value would go up even more than they have. They're selling. Multiple copies of them have sold around the $500 to $600 price point. Nothing in the past couple days, but I think this is a card that's for a specific audience. It's very pricey and very hard to get. You're not going to just see tons of these flying off the shelves at retail price. I'd say if you really get one and you want to move it and you don't want to wait and be patient, you're going to want to undercut a little bit and maybe go down to like $450 or put up a price that's like really appealing. But, you know, that's up to you to determine whether or not you want to make that sale and capitalize on it, or if you want to do something else. Julian, what's going on, man? Thanks for popping by. As we just kind of, go through the last few cards of this market watch today. Certainly, interesting to look at Triple Tactics Talent, man. I saw this in the YCS quite a bit. It was very heavily used. It's a really good card, 120, but again, I feel like beating a dead horse with this. The Megatins are a couple months away, and this does feel like a prime candidate for them, so I don't understand how the price just keeps rising when there's not a ton of competitive events between now and then. I don't know. Yeah, maybe somebody knows better than me. Hi, Vapor. Thanks for jumping in and saying hello. Maybe somebody knows better than me what's going on with this card or why. I understand it's good. I understand its significance, but the price should not be going up. If anything, I expected it to stay, like, stagnant for a bit. It's really, really surprising to me to see the amount of sales and what you guys are looking for, unless you just plan on having it original and that's what you're going for. Akin to Forbidden Droplets. By the way, which also has a confirmed reprint. So just to say that we, obviously Triple Tactics in the Megaton is speculation. Droplet we know will be in Brothers of Legend and could also be in the Megatons, which would be in their before copies. I know the OTS reprint doesn't count a ton, but when you look at the value, this is still $118. Now, this arguably the best card in the game. So in terms of like what it does, having access to it is really something that helps elevate your game to the next level. I get that. All that nonsense. But again, this is coming out in October in Brothers of Legend, so there's going to be more on the market, and the price just keeps holding, and there's not a lot of pushback. And I get that either, people who have this probably want to keep it, and if I get that logic, you're not necessarily going to sell them if you anticipate playing them going forward. But if you have spares, or if you want to move them, there's the mentality of, like, sell it, cash in, and then pick them up when they come out cheaper and make a solid profit for yourself. I don't know. I don't have any droplets. I sold any that I had previously, so I can't say what the mentality is. Obviously, I'd like to think, yeah, man, I sold mine when they were 75. I wish I had kept it a little bit longer, but, hindsight is 20/20. I'm very surprised that this continues to push this price, despite the fact that we know it's confirmed for another reprint, and potentially 2 reprints, depending on what they decide to do. Hell, it could be 3. They could put it in gold, maximum gold, for all we know. So, just be cautious if you're investing in it. I'm going to say at 120, why, what's the point? Honestly, couldn't tell you. I mean, I know that it's got a decent value because it sees a lot of play in competitive tournaments, but man, that is a steep price. Speaking of which, RedEyes Dark Dragoon, the ever debatable ban this card, oh my god, thing that people keep doing. Like, first of all, let me just say real quick, I know this isn't a reaction video at the moment, but like, RedEyes Dark Dragoon does not need to be banned. If anything, hit Fusion. I've made this argument before, but you ban RedEyes Fusion, it doesn't really do anything to anybody, and RedEyes can still play Dragoon with things like Magical Eyes Fusion. It still has a boss monster. If you ban Dragoon, RedEyes Fusion is obsolete because no one's going to play Archfiend Black Skull Dragon in RedEyes. So, ultimately, like, it's just, Dragoon being an enabler is fine, and it's a good boss monster that a lot of rogue decks use. RedEyes Fusion allows you to fuse from the deck with Anaconda. I don't think Dragoon should be hit, and I really, first of all, don't expect that it will be, because they can still sell this again. But more importantly than that, it's just, it doesn't need to be hit. It's a solid boss monster that's really good, but it's as powerful as it is because of the enablers that allow it to be made. One of which is Predaplantverte Anaconda, and it is up to $50, guys. This is wild to me, but hey, listen, people want it. Tons of sales today, 50 plus. It's just when Dragoon goes up, this goes up. It seems like they're a package deal. I regret I had an opportunity to buy this and a Dragoon for 80 about a month ago, and I decided against it because I'm like, I'll just wait. Well, like, I mean, we don't know what reprints are going to come. We don't know what things are going to look like. The ban list was a few weeks away. Obviously now, man, that would have been a solid $50 profit, and I'd have the cards again, extra copies of them. Again, like I said earlier, hindsight is 20/20, but Anaconda's up, and yeah. Arcana Triumph Joker, which is, by the way, a really cool card, and definitely a one-of in the Arcana Knight deck, for sure, is up a ton for the collector's rare with an astronomical amount of sales over the past few days. Back, it was like $45 for a while, and now that's a far cry from where it is. I don't know what to expect from this. I mean, it could stick. It's a quote-unquote waifu. People are going to love the art. It's definitely one of those things that feels like it'll be a collector's card over time, but it's also not awful. So, make of that what you will. I am happy. They're pretty beefy prices for cards. I don't know about anything. Maybe they're more valuable than I think. Yeah, I mean, trading cards in general, I've been playing trading card games for 19 years, and I mean, they're at an all-time high now. I was 9, I think, when I started playing. So, back in the day, things were nowhere near this price, but as, Pokemon had its boom, the pandemic happened, which really kind of, hit collectibles as a whole. But generally speaking, I mean, it's just followed that trend where, things that actually get used in competitive tournaments where people play and go to events and you can win prizes and stuff, the value's gonna go up to accommodate that, and that's sort of the rationale behind it. It's not shocking that some of these cards are expensive, but and especially if you look at Pokemon, which is on an entirely different level, but what is kind of shocking is the specificity of cards that are expensive, because it should be based on supply and demand, and we know the demand is going to increase exponentially pretty soon. Cyframe Gear Gamma, up to about $7 from Toon Chaos, just keeps going up. Will it hit 10? Who knows? I have a playset of these. I used to have a ton of these. I bulked them for like $1.50. I kind of wish I had waited longer too, but that seems to be the theme of today's Market Watch with those comments there. Gamma's really, really good, and the other variants of him are pretty pricey as well, but, the rare was arguably the easiest to get. Not a ton of quantities. Obviously, the collector rares are the high-end, most value. Ultras are pretty pretty steep, and supers are there too. So people are chasing after Gammas to have them. It's one of the best cards you can have access to in the meta as a hand trap, so it's definitely a recommended. Utopic Draco is really interesting to me because there has been a decent amount of sales. It's hovering around the $100 mark for the CR. I think this could go up a lot if the card does end up seeing play. Ultimately, I think if the Ultra goes up, the CR will follow to keep a balance between the two. It looks gorgeous. You can't really tell by the picture here, but it is a beautiful, beautiful collector rare, and they did a really nice job with these in general. I think if you're a big baller and you want to grab one of these, you're not looking at a terrible price point around 100. I can't see it going too much lower, but it could drop a bit more, so maybe wait and see. If it goes through some stagnant periods where it's not seeing a ton of play in the meta, then, you know, maybe we get there. I'm not really sure. Selene just continues to sell and be a really good card from Dual Overload, which still has no reprint on the horizon, going at about a little over a year old now. Selene's almost $20, and there's been a decent amount of sales due to representation in Sky Striker, where it's seeing a lot of play, but Magistus plays it as well, and don't forget, Magistus does have a new Synchro coming out that is really, really good. I don't know whether or not it would make any difference on a competitive level, but I'm excited for it as someone who plays the deck, and I do hope that it gets a chance to shine. So, yeah, Selene is pretty pricey. It's been going up and quantities have been disappearing. I would hold them if you have them. If you don't have one, you're probably going to have to pay a decent amount to grab it, but it could go up even more given the usability of the card, the limitedness of the card, and the fact that it is a girl on a card, and a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh players are horny. Now, for the last card of today's Market Watch, Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos is getting a reprint as an ulti for some reason. So this is now the third print of this card. This was short printed in Hero's Revenge, for those of you unfamiliar. Very hard to pull. It was like 1 per case, maybe 2 per case if you got lucky. $110, it's really up there in price. I don't know why it's not showing me the Ghost Rare as well. But the Ghost Rare was the second reprint, and that is around $250, $230, wherever you look at it. Julian, thanks for stopping by, my dude. Have fun with your grandma. I'm actually going to be wrapping up soon anyway. It's about a half-hour show. We're a little longer than I intended, but a lot of stuff going on. Had to catch up on things. But yeah, so BLS as a whole is just astronomically expensive for every copy. I don't think the ulti is going to be any different. It'll probably be around 80 to 100, if not more, which makes me really hope that they'll put this in gold or something. Maybe that's just sort of their way of saying, all right, we're going to make this ulti, but we're also going to reprint it for you, and we'll give you another chance to access it, because it is astronomically expensive, and it doesn't seem like they want to give us a cheap reprint of it. So with my luck, they'll make Master Duel a free game, but they'll make this a card you have to buy DLC because they just don't want anybody to actually have cheap access to it. I'm really not sure what the game plan is for that going forward, but that's going to wrap it up for today. Tabitha Robux said, I feel like I should sell mine now. Yeah, honestly, it's hard to say because they could print the ulti and then there's not going to be another accessible print, but the ulti may drive the secret down and then the ghost may drive it down. It's really weird. I can't remember the last time there was a card that just kept getting exclusively printed in really unobtainable rarities, and that's just kind of what we're looking at with this right now. So it remains to be seen where that will end up and where it'll go. But, I mean, I'm hopeful we get an accessible copy of it. The ironic part is it's not that great. Like, it's a solid card, but most decks have better options. Nightmare Unicorn typically ends up being the preferred play, and, you know, I don't see that necessarily changing immediately. But I guess we're going to have to wait and see what happens with that once the OTS actually comes out, and once everything sort of falls into place. That's going to do it for today's video. If you guys have not already, please subscribe to the channel. I certainly really do appreciate the support. And we are looking to do this weekly market recap, if you will. Hopefully the market takes a trend in, you know, a better direction as more sets come out, and there'll be more interesting things to cover. But that's going to do it for me tonight. We'll see you next Wednesday live around 9 to 9:30 in that window. I'm very bad with exact timing, but that's around the time you can expect. If you turn the notification bell on, you'll get notified when we go live, so you can make sure to check in and see what's going on with the market. Thank you guys so much for